Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of my beginner series in the sort of Convallaria global version of the game. If you haven't seen part 1 to part 3, I'll include the link in the video description where I cover everything to take you through a smoother start of the game. Everything from rerolling to putting together your first party to where to focus your attention to in the game as you unlock more and more features. In this video, part 4, I'll be covering a little bit more on how to power up your characters and the different ways to increase the power level of your characters. So starting off in terms of your characters, what you see here is my roster, and I do have roughly a well-balanced party across all different types. You actually get Maita, Ravia and Fakel for free, and the rest I got lucky in my pulls, and I did pull Nungle in the recent banner. I did also have Garcia, but I actually got her in my beginner banner, not in the recent one, and I don't plan on using Garcia much, which is why she is much lower level. Anyway, there are a couple of ways to boost the relative power of your characters, and I'll cover quickly through all of them and my thoughts on each different variation. And I'll start off at the easiest place, which is the level up and the rank up that you see on the left hand side. So first of all, every character can level up the conventional way, as in all RPG games, and the level cap is always tied to your Voyager level. As you play through the game, you will get Voyager experience just by doing normal missions and fights. And as you level up in your Voyager level, the cap for your character level increases correspondingly. So since I'm currently level 38, my character level cap are all also level 38. And leveling up is fairly simple. You get a very little bit of experience actually when you do battles, but you can also spend your resource, the common experience resource, to level up your characters. And as you can see, the game actually throws you a lot of these resources, so you don't really have to worry too much. You have way more than enough to always keep your characters at or near the level cap. Now, every 5 character levels, you can also do rank ups. So starting from level 5, you can go to class rank 1, level 2, you can level 10, you can go to rank 2, level 15, you can go to rank 3, and so on. For this reason, every time your characters can level by a multiple of 5, so level 5, 10, 15, and so on, you should immediately level them up to the cap so that you can unlock the next rank. So the one that I'm aiming for obviously now is rank 8, which is at character level 40. Each rank up also provides a stat boost, so it does help quite a bit. And depending on every odd number rank, you also can unlock a corresponding skill or passive that you can take with you. Not only that, as you unlock each skill or passive, you also can unlock a wee bit of boost by percentage. So for example here, if I chose the Omen of Death, which actually also increases Cole's defense by 3%. So all these do add up, and obviously having access to more skills and passives do make a huge difference in battle. The one thing that I do want to mention, and this is actually pretty minor, but if you are not at level multiples of 5 yet, so like level 5, 10, 15 or 20, sometimes it's better not to level the characters to the cap. Here I am capped at level 38 out of 38 because I needed to unlock the Memento Treasure rewards, but ideally you want to be something like 37 out of 38, so one level below the cap. This is because as characters participate in battles, you do earn a little bit of experience through the battles, which actually means you save a little bit on your resource when you level them up accordingly. Now this is extremely minor. You don't have to if you don't want to do it. The amount of common experience you save is something like below 100 each time you do this, so in the grand scheme of things it's really nothing much. But that being said, one character level up actually doesn't give you a lot of stats. Most of the power comes from the other stuff, which I'll go through soon. So I think it is a little bit more efficient leaving them at level like 37 out of 38. The only exception, of course, is like I mentioned, if you can hit multiples of 5 to go to the next rank, you obviously want to immediately go for that. Or if you need to hit a certain level to unlock Memento Treasure rewards, such as level 38, which is required for the current Memento Treasure page where I'm in. The next thing about character level is the equipment that they wear, and you slowly get access to weapons and armor as you play through the Fool's Journey. You start off with common weapons and armor, and then somewhere through chapter 2 you start getting rare ones, and by chapter 3, chapter 4, and also in Memento Treasure and other beginner rewards, you can actually unlock legendary weapons and armor. These are denoted by the rainbow colored background like such. And I have to say, don't underestimate weapons and armor. They are pretty important in terms of powering up your characters. So say for example here, the weapon for Cole that I'm using is Void Step, and you get quite a lot of attack and max HP boost from this. If you compare this to say the current value of his stats, so for example, Cole has 2500 HP, so just the weapon alone contributes about 20% of his HP, and the physical attack is also likewise. So having a good weapon and also armor actually significantly boosts the stats of your characters. The thing that's a bit strange here is that both weapons and armor increases the offensive and defensive stats. So even say for the weapon here, you do get physical defense and magical defense, and same goes for the armor. You also get a little bit of physical attack and magical attack and HP as well. So it is important to keep both weapons and armor level. The one biggest drawback though is that the resource to level the weapons and armor is extremely scarce. So I'm down to 11,000 dust, and the first 10 to 20 levels of upgrade doesn't take too much, but above level 20 you start really requiring massive amounts of weapon dusts, the radiant powder, and it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. So for this reason, what I would recommend is at the start, try to hold off on upgrading weapons until you get at least rare weapons. There is one exception to this, in that in the early Memento Treasure quests that you get at the start, some of them do require leveling up your weapons to a certain level. So if you do need to level a weapon to hit the treasure requirement of the Memento Treasures, then obviously I think you should do so. And anyway, at the start, level 10, level 20 weapons doesn't really require a lot of resource anyway. Just don't go overboard upgrading lesser rarity equipment, and try to save your dusts for when you finally get access to legendary equipment. You will get access to it for free. You do not need to pull on the weapon banner that's available, and I don't really recommend to pull on the weapon banner because the chances of getting a very specific legendary weapon is extremely low, and it will eat into the resource that you can otherwise save for pulling for characters. So just wait until you unlock weapons and armor. It's also perfectly fine using just rare weapons and armor. I think I do have some characters still using rare armors. Some of the rare armors by themselves are also pretty useful. So for example, you have the potion ones, which gives you one-time use for special effect. So you have like a healing potion or a potion that you can throw to inflict the debuff on the enemy. The one thing that many people don't know is that the weapons and armor of the same rarity, so for example, if I compare a level 1 amulet with a level 1 armor, and if I do have a level 1 potion, I will have shown it, but I don't have one at the moment. But between weapons and armor of the same rarity, the stats are exactly the same. So here are some examples, and here's the example for common ones. Obviously my legendary ones are leveled, so there's not much I can show, but here's a comparison, level 40 versus level 40. You'll notice that the stats are exactly the same. Obviously the stats are a little bit higher depending on the rarity. You will get higher stats for legendary equipment versus rare, But it does means that you don't really have to worry about what type of armor it is. So for example, you may think that equipping a potion would mean lesser stats. No, it doesn't. For some reason, holding a bottle of potion gives you as much armor and defense as equipping an actual armor, which is a little bit hilarious. But you know, you do have trade-offs. So armors have one-time use but no other special passive, whereas obviously some armors give you special passives that do take effect. So try to mix and match, but the key thing really is that at the end, grand scheme of things, the passive don't matter too much. As long as it roughly jives with the theme of the character that you are equipping them on, it's fine. What's more important is the total collective stats. They do make a big difference, which also means that eventually the stats that you get from level up is actually pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. As you level up, the stat gain is pretty small. I'll show you an example. So I'll just go to an unleveled character. So here, leveling up just gives you like 5 physical attack, 3 magical attack, 1 defense, which is pretty much nothing if you have a fully equipped character. So the level up stats are most impactful at the very early parts of the game when you don't have access to weapons and armor yet, so the gains from leveling up are more meaningful. Once you have weapons and armor, they do carry a big bulk of power, so you should equip them and level them up accordingly. Just try to hold off until you get at least rare armors and rare weapons, because the dust, like I said, is extremely limited in quantities. Next up are the turrets. Turrets you unlock somewhere in Chapter 3 of Fool's Journey, and they do carry a significant boost in stats as well. Think of it as an accessory that characters equip. So turrets by themselves also carry stats, which is why you should also keep them upgraded. And you do have legendary and rare turrets similar to your weapons and armor. Again, the stats across the turrets are all exactly the same, but they are higher if you are going one rank higher in rarity. So legendary turrets always has more stats than rare turrets. But otherwise, between turrets of the same rarity, you get the same stats. The differences in turrets though are the passive effects, and the passive effects on turrets are pretty impactful, in my opinion, more so than the weapons and armor. For this reason, when you are equipping turrets, it's pretty important to obviously select turrets with passives that are more meaningful for your characters. So for example, I'll go to my tank, because I think that's the best example. So Maita has a defensive turret, so just equipping the turret decreases the damage that she takes by 10%. And I got pretty lucky in the other passives here as well. So quick explanation on the passives on the right here. At certain levels of the turrets, you unlock additional passives, and all of these stack up. So obviously for Maita, it's pretty good because not only does she reduce damage by 10%, she gets another 42 physical defense, 6% physical defense, and eventually 9% more HP once I level the turret even further. Now the additional passives are more on legendary passives. So for example here I have 4 more, whereas for rare passives they only go up to level 45. So for really far end game, you obviously want to have legendary turrets, but for turrets I would say it's a bit harder to get a very good legendary turret, and it's actually more important, especially if you are below level 45, to select turrets not only based on their rarity but very importantly based on the passives that they can grant. Now you get a lot of turrets very quickly. You can see here I have a long list of turrets, and what is a bit RNG based here is that the passives on the right is random. So for example here I have actually this is pretty similar. Let me find one that's a bit different. So say for example between these two, Dream of the Magician, the main passive at the bottom is the same, but as you can see on the right hand side, the passive that you get at each level is randomized. So there is a little bit of RNG here, and the only way to show all the different passives in the end is to actually level the turret up. The good thing though is that the resource to level turrets is extremely abundant, and it doesn't take a lot to level a turret. So if I take a turret from level 1 all the way to level 40, it takes only 4,000 turret essence, and I have 146,000 available. So because of this, don't be shy leveling turrets up. Obviously, don't just level every single turret, but try to level a few up to unlock a few passives so that you can select the best turret available for your characters. Eventually, you start getting legendary turrets that are pretty good. So, for example, here for Ravia, this turret not only gives her a good passive, but also further increases her physical attack, which really turns her into a melee nuke in the game. Next up are more minor boosts, I would say, or I should say it's more time limited boosts. So these are the character's trait and bond. So every character have their own unique traits, and this especially goes for legendary characters as well, and this is one of the things that really differentiates legendary characters versus epic characters. So the traits that legendary characters get can actually be leveled up, and the percentage gains will increase the more stars that they have. However, there are only two ways to gain the resource to level up the traits. One is to pull a duplicate of the character. So if you do so, you will get corresponding memory shards, which is then the resource that you use to level up their traits. However, this doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to spend your resource to pull for duplicates, because there is a free way to get the memory shards, and this is from the memory trial in the Crossing Worlds. Let me just quickly go there to show you. So if you go to the Crossing Worlds, as you play through the Fool's Journey, you will unlock the memory retrieval trial. Now you can only do this once a day, but when you do this, you will get a very small quantity. Currently, I can get 1 to 2 shards per character in the battle, but this is free and repeatable daily. So over a course of months, you will get enough shards to fully max out the character's trait for free. This is also why it's important to unlock all of these trials as early as possible, which was why in my last beginner series of the video, I did recommend focusing more time on the Fool's Journey, at least up till the end of chapter 3, so that you have everything unlocked and start being able to farm your way through all these resources correspondingly. But I'll probably cover more on the Crossing Worlds probably in another video. Now going back to the characters, so that's it for traits. Now I did mention bond. Bond is accessible through the small heart on the top right, and each day as you play, you get 500 bond points that you can spend by clicking on the bottom left hand here. I've used up mine, so it's at 0, but you get roughly 500. Now you can only keep a maximum of 3,000. So you do want to spend your points here as you get them, otherwise you waste any excess points. They just go to the trash above 3,000. So use them at least once every 2 or 3 days so that they don't go to waste. So you just use them and they can increase the bond. Now the bonds also go up to level 5, and it's fairly simple. It's just each level up for the character you get 1% additional attributes. So at max level you get 5% boost to their stats, which can be meaningful. Keep in mind that as you go deeper into the game and your character gains more stats from weapons and armor and such, this 5% becomes more and more meaningful. Obviously, bonds are pretty limited. You can also get sometimes bond charms for free. This is one-time use items that drastically gives you bond points for the character. And try to focus more on characters that you think you'll be using for a long while. So for example, you have so-called meta characters like Inanna or Gloria that will probably last longer in your roster, and these should be characters that you probably spend your first bond points on. The last bit, but also very important part on character level and power, is the talent system. Now, you also unlock the talent system by just playing through the Fool's Journey. I think it's somewhere around chapter 1 or chapter 2 that you unlock it. But it is story based, so you definitely won't miss it. And you can see that there is a corresponding page depending on what type of element I would say that the character is. So for example, since Maita is a defender, I go into the defender path. And this is like a node system. Similar to, I suppose, like Final Fantasy X, if you've played it before, where, you know, if you unlock a certain node, you can then unlock more nodes further down. However, to really unlock more and more nodes, you can see that a bunch of them are locked behind a lock symbol. To get more and more of them, you actually do have to just, you know, open more nodes to increase your rank. So my talent rating is now silver, and to go to gold rating, you just have to purchase more nodes. That's it. So eventually you will just unlock all of it. You don't really have a choice. But starting out where resources are limited and you have a lot of choices to unlock, my recommendation is to go first for offense. Offense is always the best defense in this sort of game. If you can kill the enemy units quickly, it also means that you take less damage during the enemy's turns. So I would recommend going for this first because it increases physical and magical attack. And then you have the next node here, which is also the same. And then after that, you have this one here. And very importantly, the percentage increase. I think this is the goal that you should be aiming for, where you get percentage gains to your physical attack stat. Now obviously, not all characters are physical. If you have magic users such as Barrel, what you do then is just go for the opposite direction and then level up the magical attack instead. Now the nodes are the same across all character element types. So if I go to the Seeker's path, it's also the same thing. The nodes are all the same. It's just that if you unlock it for Seeker, then only Seeker units benefit, and so on and so forth. Other notable ones would include the health increases. I think this is pretty big, as well as, of course, the physical defense. For defensive nodes, I would recommend to first focus on physical defense, because in the early game, there isn't a lot of magical enemy units, so you don't actually take magical damage all that much. You take physical damage way more often. So increasing physical defense, I think, takes a priority early on. Now, there is also a little bit about talents that you can use in battle. So, for example, I have March Command unlocked here. You can take one common, one intermediate, and one advanced talent into battle. And there is a tutorial stage that shows you how to do it. You start off with Thunderstruck, which is pretty decent early on, but quickly falls off once you hit, you know, like chapter 3 or chapter 4 of Fool's Journey. Anyway, I won't cover much into those talents in this video, but I may cover them in another, because this video is all about powering up your characters. So that's it for the talent part. You will get free resource to level up your character's talents as you go along, which is pretty neat. And what's important also is that you can get more of the resource by going through the Crossing World trials again. So once more, sorry, I hit the daily reset. So if you just go to the Crossing Worlds, there is a corresponding star trial that you can do to unlock the resource required to level up the talents. The one thing I should note though, if you do have spare stamina, I think it's probably more appropriate to spend them on Radiant Forging, because like I said, the dust to level up the weapons are extremely rare. So you probably get more out of this, and then just slowly spending spare stamina in your star trial if you feel you do not need more radiant dust for your weapons. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope it gives you a comprehensive enough overview on leveling up your character power, it is pretty good to keep yourself topped up, because the game also tells you if you are over level or under level for quests. You will see things like overwhelming power on the stage if you are doing it, if you are over level, and correspondingly you will see things like daunting fight or something like this. I'll give you an example. So here you can see it says daunting challenge. It's an indicator to show that you are below level recommended, and this way it tells you that you should probably try to power up your characters a bit more before taking through the event. So that's it for part 4 of the beginner series. Till then, I'll catch you guys in the next beginner series video. See ya, bye.